Welcome, biologists. I'm Mr. Forbrook, and today we're going to be taking a look at Investigation 13.1. This is the qualitative analysis of enzyme activity. The purpose of today's investigation is to collect evidence to support objective ENE 1E, and that's to explain how enzymes affect the rate of biological reactions. In particular, we're going to look at this reaction. This is the breakdown of hydrogen peroxide into water and oxygen. And to do so, we're going to create a simple experiment to demonstrate this. In our setup, you can see that we've got two test tubes. Our first is a control, denoted by the negative symbol. And in that control tube, you're going to find a buffered solution at a neutral pH of 7. In our positive, or experimental group, you're still going to find a neutral solution buffered at pH 7, but there will also be some enzyme. And this is an enzyme coming from, or I should say the peroxidase enzyme coming from a turnip. Now, to each of these tubes, we'll be adding a few other substances. To each, we'll be adding substrate, indicator, and a buffer. The substrate is the hydrogen peroxide itself. It's what we expect to break down in the reaction. And because we really can't see water or oxygen, we also need to add an indicator. We're going to use guaiacol, because in the presence of oxygen, guaiacol likes to bind with oxygen, forming tetraguaiacol, which can be visually seen as a nice brown color. And the darker that brown color is, the more product we have. The last thing that you're going to find in this tube is buffer. And again, we want to keep this at a nice neutral pH, making sure that our substrate and our enzyme solutions are going to go ahead and be at the consistent pH of 7. Now, before we get mixing, I want you to pause the video and I want you to generate a hypothesis. What do you believe that you'll observe after 5 minutes in our control group as compared to our experimental group? Now that you've made your hypothesis, I want you to scroll down to our data table. In the data table, you'll see that there's room to collect different color measurements for a period of 5 minutes. Every 30 seconds, you're going to make an observation about what these tubes look like. And you're going to compare the color of these tubes to the reference table right above. You're going to use the number on that reference tube and just record that in your data table. You'll do this every 30 seconds for a total of 5 minutes. Now that you know what you're going to be doing, let's get this reaction started. All right, now that we have 5 minutes of data, our next step is to go ahead and create a line graph to represent the progression of this particular reaction over the time period of 5 minutes. Once you have your graph created, your last step is to go ahead and use that graph along with the background knowledge to go back to our driving question and explain how exactly did this enzyme affect the rate of this biological reaction. Thanks so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next time.